Does not start. There we go. Finally started it. Didn't want to act right for a while.
There we go. So just to let everybody know, as usual, this session is being recorded and will be posted up on the CAD-1 YouTube channel later on. And for information about that, you can just head up to our website, www.cad1.com, and take a look at all of our current, past, present, and future webinars that we're going to be having.
The past ones are listed on the archives page, so you can find any and all of them there.
So, as Stan mentioned, today we're going to be talking about working with InfraWorks. And by way of introduction, Stan already introduced himself, Business Development Manager. My name is Warren Geisler. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Training Center Manager here at CAD-1. I'm also the Geospatial Technical Specialist, so a lot of the InfraWorks webinars that we will be presenting, I'll be hosting. I'll also be hosting the webinars on AutoCAD map and some of the workflows there. And later on this year, we're going to be hosting one or two webinars on some of the ancillary products that you've got in your design suite, such as Raster Design. I've had some people asking me about that, so I think we ought to chat about that. And that's also part of what we're going to be showing off today very quickly, is how to use Raster Design.
And if you don't know Warren, you're missing a treat. Now,
so there's our normal pictures, and then there's our real pictures this time, just so everybody can get a real feel for who we are and what we do. Okay, you recognize that guy?
Despicable Me and Salvador.
There you go. I figured you'd know who he was. Stan is our resident artist, so for those of you who don't know that picture, that's one of my favorite, or probably definitely my favorite artist next to M.C. Escher, is Salvador Dali.
And when I go home at night, I do that with my mustache every evening.
Which is really creepy because he doesn't actually have a mustache.
Let's see what other slides we've got. There's a couple other things we want to, kind of housekeeping things we want to bring up to everybody here. So anyway, most of you have been on a GoToMeeting by now, so you know this. It seems like every time we have one of these, though, make sure your telephone, if you're listening on the telephone, you've got telephone button hit. If you're listening on mic and speakers, you've got mic and speakers hit. Of course, if you can't hear me, this isn't going to make any sense to you anyway.
Hey, let's find out if they can hear us.
So
that's always fun.
Hit raise your hand button if you can hear us.
So for those of you who can hear us, please.
And no, we can't turn up the volume. We basically are at one speed here, so we'll have to turn up volume again.
Raise your hands if you can.
Looks
hear
like
us.
Most people have raised their hands, so we'll assume most people can hear us to one degree or other. And that's a message that comes up when we start recording it.
It says your computer's overloaded on the
recording
one.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have any effect on anything.
Well, I'm looking at the number of people who are raising their hands, and most of them, did you lower their hands for them already?
I lowered their hands once, and then they're raising their hands again. So.
Okay, wow, look at all those people that are in here, and I know most of them.
Yeah, I know. It's a good turnout today.
It's a very good turnout today.
If you want to ask questions, that's probably the most important thing. Type them in on the question box. We'll try and get them answered as close to in context as we possibly can.
I thought you were going to say as close to incompetently as we possibly can. Okay, that too.
Yes, that too.
Okay. So now let's chat about this. What's going on today? What are we here for? What am I going to be talking about today? So over the last year, Autodesk has been migrating everybody to suites, and by now everybody pretty much should be on a suite, at least most of the people that we've talked to, and everybody who is in this webinar hopefully will be on a suite, because that's the best way to get to InfraWorks right now. And by now, if you are on a suite, you have hopefully loaded up 2014, and yeah, we'll be talking about 2015, which is out the door right now, but you've loaded up the 2014 suite. You've got all those 10,000 icons on your computers, and hopefully by now you've had a chance to play with some of those icons and some of those tools, like InfraWorks. So here's the blurb from the Autodesk website about what InfraWorks is, and we have had a few presentations on InfraWorks already showing off what it is. We love this product. We think it's great. We think it's great technology, and and I'm getting a message that 360 new isn't ready to install. And you don't need 360 in order to use InfraWorks, so I'm going to shut that down right now. But basically, as I've mentioned before, it's like Google Earth on steroids. It allows you to take large or small projects and give them a lifelike quality in a preliminary design phase and even in an as-built phase, just to see what things actually really truly look like. Okay, so here's the first note for today. I am, in fact, using InfraWorks 2014, not InfraWorks 2015 that comes with the suite, and not InfraWorks 360. Stan, do you want to mention the difference between those, by the way?
I was going to wedge myself in here pretty quickly. If you have an InfraWorks Premium or Ultimate suite or a
infrastructure.
Yes, and excuse me, all these inferences. If you have an infrastructure design suite Premium or Ultimate or a building design suite Ultimate, you have a flavor of InfraWorks.
Now, is everybody catching that? A flavor. This is one of the versions. How's that?
Right. The other version is the InfraWorks 360, which is a rental version. It has quite a bit of capability for roadway optimization, bridge design optimization, collaboration. The InfraWorks out of the box will do, I'd say, about 85% of the things that InfraWorks 360 will do. It will allow you to view things. It will allow you to pull things in and coordinate them, as we're going to see today, as far as GIS information, topographic information, aerial imaging, things like that. What it doesn't do, most importantly, is some of the optimization calculation and the collaboration piece that can be highly effective in InfraWorks.
Yeah, what we've seen and what Autodesk is doing is they're taking a lot of the analysis tools and they're putting them on the cloud, so it's kind of a pay as you need it, rent as you need it, pay as you need to go kind of a system. So in order to get to those analysis tools, you will need to rent a version of or a copy of InfraWorks 360, which may seem a little bit redundant to you since you already have a copy of InfraWorks that's installed with your suite. But in order to get to the analysis tools specifically, and as Stan mentioned, a lot of the collaboration tools, you are going to need to rent another copy of InfraWorks. It's going to have a different interface. We'll probably be showing this off here in the near future, unless we already have we?
No, we haven't done 360 yet.
Okay, so we'll be showing off a webinar on the 360 version. The interface is going to be different. You'll see the tool sets that are going to be available to you. There's a lot of nice stuff that they were showing off to subscription customers over the last year that they're actually going to be pulling out of the suite-based version and putting into the 360. So just to kind of give you an idea, as Stan mentioned, the suite-based InfraWorks will do quite a bit, and it has not changed, with the exception of the roads and highways is getting kind of yanked out.
Yep.
And that's getting plugged into the 360 version. So,
now, don't look at us because we're kind of as befuddled by this whole thing that Autodesk is doing as you are, but that's the explanation that we have right at this moment.
Yeah, that's the best that we can offer everybody right at this particular moment. And we're getting this figured out as well. Now, why am I not using 2015? Well, as you all have probably noticed, 2015 is right now getting sent out. Everybody should be getting their emails about your downloads are available. Here's your new serial number. Download them, get them installed. We are in the same process as you all. Just to make sure that everybody understands, even though we are a reseller, we don't get the software any faster than you do. We get the same emails that you all do at the same time. So yeah, we had access to the beta, but then again, so does everybody else. You all have access to the beta if you join the beta program, which I'd recommend. But we're getting the same emails, we're getting the same timely downloads that you are. And so we're choking our network connections just like everybody else is, downloading these, 500 gigabyte files and installers and everything else. So here, pretty shortly, we'll be showing off the 2015 tools. As a matter of fact, talk about a little bit right now. We've got our Customer Appreciation Day coming up in June, near the end of June.
June 27th.
And we will be showing off during the Customer Appreciation Day the new features of the software. And that's where we're really going to be hosting all of the 2015, hey, take a look at what you've got and look at the suites and all the cool stuff. And as in years past, our Customer Appreciation Day is always free to everybody. We include lunch, we include a light breakfast, we include speakers and sessions and talking and meeting the techs, and And this year, hopefully, we'll also be having some drinks at the end of it, and we still haven't figured out what to do with the whole drink thing, I think.
Well, we've got some very interesting speakers and topics. It'll be a good day. Our technical team is going to the training for the 2015 products in mid-May, so we're you know, as Warren said, we're kind of in the same place you are, and unfortunately this year Autodesk hasn't even rolled out a release date schedule, so
yeah, they're already releasing it, but we don't have a date
surprising us with it.
Yeah, so last year was kind of a silent rollout, as you all know. Kind of got pushed out, but this year it's like the surprise rollout. Yeah. Okay, I got a couple questions to ask everybody right off the bat. Make sure everybody's wide awake. First question, are you actually using Infrastructure Design Suite?
And we will.
And, oh, there we go. And let's see.
And some of these people might be using Building Design Suite too, but at the same time.
I got about 70%.
Phil there would probably be using, Phil who just said no would probably be using Building, or more likely be using Building Design Suite, or at least owning Building Design Suite.
Okay, so it looks like about 80% of the people have voted. 20% of you are probably asleep or off getting a cup of coffee, and that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And it looks like we're kind of split.
Yep.
Half and half. So actually, I should have put another question in there. If you're not using Infrastructure Design Suite, what product are you using? Okay, so next time I will be adding in that question. So for those of you, regardless of the suite, next question I need to ask is, have you in fact used or at least played with InfraWorks, at least launched it, played around with it, tried to load up some data, something in there? Hopefully you have, but I just kind of want to get a feel for who I'm chatting with today.
And it looks like the polls are settling down here.
I want to get that, at least that same 80% who answered the first question should be answering the second question, unless we actually lost somebody. Good. It looks like we've gone up, so we actually gained somebody who got back from getting their coffee. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this one. And I expected, this really is, it looks like the majority of you have not used InfraWorks. One or two of you are asking, what the heck is InfraWorks? Which is cool. I'm sure what InfraWorks, at least part of it was about. And then at least 38% of you, several of you, actually have had a chance to play with InfraWorks. If you have not had the chance, take some time. And I'm not saying take a day or two. Take a little bit of time. Open up InfraWorks, take a look at the help, the wiki help, and some of the tutorials, and play with it and see the things that that it can offer you.
This is a very important, and it's I can't stress enough how amazing it is if you really dig into it, and how useful it can be, and how trend-setting it's going to be for the future of civil and GIS work.
That's a very politically correct way of putting it. That was a really good way, good verbiage there. For me, I just think it's cool as all get out.
Yeah.
This is something that I've been looking forward to for a long time, and seeing it roll off, and I just think it's a really cool, groovy product. Okay, last question for everybody. And this is another really important one. Okay, so you loaded up your design suite. Regardless of the design suite, you loaded up the design suite, and you got like 20 icons on your desktop. Have you done anything with those icons? Have you played with any of the other products?
Warren, while we're doing this, I want to mention real quick, while people are selecting their polls, I want to mention real quick, and we're not trying to make shameless sales plugs here, but I do want to mention that the Autodesk first quarter promotions in tomorrow. That is the promotion that if you have some older software, 2009 and up, you can get it upgraded and receive a year's free subscription if you do that by tomorrow. Now, the reason that this is so important is that many of you have heard, and we're going to harp on it all year long, because we don't want our good customers and friends to get kind of caught in the ringer here. Autodesk will no longer be upgrading any product at all. I mean, if you have the current product and you want to go from, say, Civil 3D to Infrastructure Suite, you can do that on current levels, but any older product will not be able to be upgraded after January 31st of 2015. Just flat out. Now, many of you have older products, or during the downturn you shelved a few seats because you didn't need them anymore. Please, please, please call us and talk about how the best way to protect those valuable assets. If you don't want them anymore, fine. But we don't want you coming back to us in a year and going, I'd like to upgrade my blah, 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 and you can't anymore. You have to buy a brand new seat.
Yeah, this one's again not up to us. This is an Autodesk thing, and we just want to make sure that sort of like when they were going to the suites and they were migrating everybody automatically and then not migrating. I mean, we want to make sure that we've got as much communication as possible so that people don't come back later on and start yelling at us because it's not our fault.
No, it's not. And the other thing that I want to bring up to everybody, because again, every year this becomes a kind of a cat and mouse game. Autodesk, as most of you know, has gone to a default electronic download policy for new software, your 2015 software. That means you're supposed to download it. Now, many of you call up and some actually yell at our people, why didn't you send us our software? What's wrong with you idiots? I mean, really, it does get that bad sometimes. Most people are very polite about it, but we don't really have capacity to request physical media for you. We will help you. We will do what you can. The way you get physical media, if you want it, is to go to your subscription center, log in, and make the request yourself. Now, we're not trying to be hard about this. We'll help you if we can.
We just can't do it.
We just can't do it.
We're not allowed. I mean, we can't log into your subscription center and do it for you, and we don't carry physical media. Autodesk doesn't send it to us either. So, again, we're in the same boat as everybody else.
Yeah, so if you need a thumb drive or whatever, please go to your subscription center. If you need help with that, we can help you with that.
Yeah, we can help you log in all day long. Okay, so back to the webinar. Last question was, have you used any of the other products? And it looks, again, split about what I was expecting. And for those of you who've deleted your icons, you probably want to get those back. So to get those back, just, go to your Windows, All Programs, Autodesk, yada, 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 and work your way down through there and get all of those icons back, or at least that's where they are, so you can start playing with them. How's that? Okay, back to the show.
Gary, you have a very interesting question, and we will get that answered because that is very much at the foundation of using InfraWorks in an effective way.
Okay. So you've got your Infrastructure Design Suite 2014. Like I said, some of you are already getting the 2015, getting it downloaded. We're just talking about 2014 for the moment. Regardless of the version that you've got, you've still got, and you notice I put it up in there in green, AutoCAD 2014. And even if you're using something like Civil 3D or MAP or something else, anything that's based on AutoCAD, we're still finding that the vast majority of the drafting that's being done and the design that's being done is being done in AutoCAD. Yeah, I'm using Civil 3D for a lot of my design work, but I'm still producing an AutoCAD drawing. I still got lines, arcs, circles, and text. So the question being is that I've got this really groovy program, InfraWorks, and I've launched it and I've seen how it looks. Now, how do I get my AutoCAD drawings into InfraWorks? One of the things that we noticed very early on with InfraWorks, and hopefully Autodesk is going to get all of this fixed and plugged in, is we can import shape files and SDF files and a lot of different file formats for GIS data. There is no really good import tool set for a plain AutoCAD drawing. And what that means is that I can bring in AutoCAD data, but I've got to assign it, and I've got to tell it what it is. Is it a road? Is it furniture? Is it a surface? What is it? I don't care about any of that. I just want my AutoCAD drawing in here. I'll bring in all of my GIS data later. I'll be overlaying that. I'll be doing my design. But I just want my AutoCAD site plan as an overlay. So how do I get that? We don't really have a button that says bring in the AutoCAD drawing and just use it as an overlay. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And, okay, so for the more visual crowd, you're going to start with something that looks like this, which, yeah, that's just what I'm used to. This is my Civil 3D drawing or my AutoCAD drawing with all of my line work and everything else. And really what I want to get to as something that looks really cool like that. So how do we do it? We have three methods currently, three main methods of getting your AutoCAD information in. Number one, you got to use Raster Design to create an image, a picture image that you're going to use as an overlay. We'll talk about that and what the heck is Raster Design. Number two, you can import the AutoCAD layers, and this is a neat little trick that I learned from a couple of the guys at Autodesk. You import a couple of the AutoCAD layers as pipe systems inside of InfraWorks, and what that does for you is it gives you a really cool kind of 3D feel to it. Lastly, you've got AutoCAD Map, Autodesk AutoCAD Map 3D or Autodesk AutoCAD Civil 3D. You can export your information as either an SDF, spatial data format file, or a shape file format, basically a GIS format. And the cool thing about that is maybe you won't get the 3D stuff necessarily, or maybe you will. I'll show you how to do that. But you can also add in attribute information. So which one is best for you? Well, it depends on what you're really looking for. Oh yeah, another note. In case you haven't noticed, and I had to throw this in there after I got done, somebody was yelling at me. You'll notice in my presentation today, and I'll put this note in all my presentations, I'm thinking, is I really am just too lazy to put in all of the copyright and the registered and things like that. So I just want everybody to act like they're there. So you see the word Raster Design up there. That I think that's supposed to be a trademark or registered, and AutoCAD is a copyright. Okay, so get the idea? I'm not going to be plugging that stuff in there. All right, using Raster Design. First of all, what is Raster Design? Raster Design is a imaging tool set that gets added onto AutoCAD or AutoCAD products, AutoCAD-based products.
Mm-hmm. And it's a very nice little tool.
And it is a great little tool. And if you've got a suite, you've got it. Okay? So that's the big thing people always ask is like, if I need to use Raster Design, how do I get to it? Well, if you've got one of the design suites, then you've got Raster Design. It's already plugged in to your AutoCAD. You know, one of those icons that you deleted, or several of those icons that you deleted, would have said Raster Design on AutoCAD or Raster Design on Map. And you don't even need to use that icon necessarily. The ribbon is going to be there regardless how you launch the program. So don't worry. You don't have to run out and buy something new. Here's the trick for everybody. If you've got InfraWorks, that means you have a suite. Unless you did the rental, and I'm not talking about the rental. If you've got InfraWorks, that means you've got a suite. If you've got a suite, you got Raster Design. Hey, it works out, doesn't it? It's like all put together there. Okay, so I didn't know that. And I will be doing another webinar in the future on Raster Design and showing off a couple of things. I like to do that about once every year just to remind everybody of what it is. Okay, so what do I need to do? Great, I got this Raster Design. You know, what do I do? Warren has showed me how to use Raster Design to bring in DEM files or aerial photographs or all the rest of this cool stuff. Here's something that I've never shown in any of my webinars is how to create an image. You're going to actually physically create an image, and you're going to grab your AutoCAD objects and you're going to throw them in there. So it's a really neat tool that you can use inside of Raster Design. Okay, but there are a few notes that I want to make sure I'm leaving the slide up for a few moments before I jump into the product. There are a few notes there that are really important. In order for anything, and I'm going to stress this, and I've done this in all my webinars and demos for InfraWorks, in order for anything to get into InfraWorks appropriately or properly, you need to have a coordinate system assigned. So I always go back to coordinate systems. I'm always harping on coordinate systems. So make sure that you've got a known coordinate system. You get your information in there. If your information isn't drawn to a known coordinate system, pick it up and move it and get it into a known coordinate system. And you don't have to be spot on. I mean, we're not designing survey level accuracy inside of InfraWorks. We're getting things to look good. So just get it in there. Here's another one that I ran into. You got to watch out for the screen background color when you're inside of AutoCAD, because that actually will go through with an image. And that's important. A lot of people have a black background color. You put that inside of InfraWorks, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's going to look kind of funky.
That's messy.
That is. So you change it to like a white background. That may look a little funky. So I like the gray, and I'll show you that. Resolution and color options. I'm going to be showing you this as we go along here, but I'm going to stress it now, and I'll stress it later. Resolution, how dense do you want your image? How clean do you want your image? And what type of colors do you want for your image? Those are always going to increase the file size. But the good news is that when you go to export this image, you can choose a compression. So I can compress my image so it's nice and tight. It's a small image. and that will help out with load times. Not necessarily the RAM that's being used, but the load times. Okay, so what am I talking about here? Let's jump into, yay, AutoCAD. Right now I'm using AutoCAD Map. You can use Civil 3D. You can use AutoCAD. And I saw a message that popped up earlier as I'm chatting here. Looked over and somebody mentioned something about having AutoCAD LT. And what did you say, Stan? I didn't
Well, the question was a little more involved with that. Yes, he had LT. He was wondering how he could access InfraWorks, so I answered that one privately because...
Okay, so here's the thing is that if you've got somebody who's using plain LT, they will not, I want to stress this, not N-O-T, have Raster Design, have these raster tools or the image tools. Okay, you cannot plug those into LT. You can only plug them into full-blown AutoCAD or AutoCAD Map or Civil 3D or one of those. So when you get into your product, what am I talking about here? So you're looking at your ribbons and all the different ribbons that Warren was just talking about. You should see, and if you do not see this one, then you want to give us a call if you've got one of the design suites and say, hey, where's my raster tools? Because this was really cool, and there's a lot more that you can do with this. So you should have a raster tools, and it should be installed regardless, even regardless of the icon that you're using. The first time that you launch any one of these tools inside here, you may get a nice little splash screen that says, hey, you've just launched Raster Design, so don't panic or anything. So here's a typical engineering design that I've got, and I've got all kinds of cool stuff in here. So now really what I want to do is I want to be able to use this inside of my InfraWorks, and I've already prepped my InfraWorks. So there's the Earth. We're out in the ocean somewhere. You can see the sky coming.
The possibilities are infinite.
They're almost infinite. Yeah, actually, and for those of you who've seen the webinars that we've had, you've seen me zoom out until you can see the whole Earth. So I'm waiting until you can zoom out until the Earth goes away and you see the different planets, and we can design on those. That would be kind of groovy. All right, so what do we have to do in order to get Raster Design, in order to get this in just as an image? So here's what I'm doing is out of the 3 options that we've got, each one's going to give you something a little bit different. So here's the first option, option number 1, using Raster Design. I don't want to grab any of my information. I don't need tooltips. I don't need 3D. I don't need any of that. What I need is I want to take my design as a picture, and I want to slap it down on top of my Earth, and I just want to start doing cool stuff around it. But I need to see it just as if you're doing a screen capture. Now, for those of you who've been using AutoCAD for a really, really long time and you're used to this, you know that you can actually set up a printer inside of AutoCAD to print to an image file. No, not really all that great. So we don't want to do that, and there's a lot of reasons for that. The main reason is that you cannot use a coordinate system.
Exactly.
That's the big thing you got to worry about. Okay, so what do? Well, we use our neat little AutoCAD tools to do things like layer isolate, object isolate, select similar, etc. You're going to be grabbing a whole bunch of different objects, and you're going to be either using the W block command, or you're going to be copying and pasting them, and you're going to be cleaning them up into a drawing that looks kind of like this. So we don't want everything necessarily. You don't want contours because you want to bring a surface in. So you want all of the real features. You can bring in text if you want to. It may look a little funky, but you just really want all of the main features. I want to see my site plan. So your first step is to always clean up your drawing. Okay, now that we're good with that, next thing I need to do is I need to create a brand new image. I got a little new button up here where I can create a brand new image. So I'm going to create a new image. See, that's that splash screen up. And it's going to bring up this little new image where you're going to actually physically create a blank picture in the middle of your drawing. Now, the first thing, color depth. So here you're going to see the color type. Kind of give you an idea of what these color types are going to do. Since this is being recorded, you'll be able to go here, do a quick screen capture, and take a look. But take a look at the kind of stuff that I did. Is what did I do? I used I did a bitonal or two-tone image. Okay, so it's no colors, black and white, two-tone image, low resolution. Look at the size of the file that I've got. Okay. Next, what I did was I did an 8. Now, an 8-bit is going to give you the colors. They're not going to give you true colors, but they'll give you AutoCAD colors. So 8 image. So now I've increased the image size by 9 times. Okay. Now I've doubled the resolution, and I've quadrupled the image size. Remember, it's going left, right, and up, down. So it's multiplied for your image size. So these images are getting bigger and bigger, and good heavens, it's not that much. If you saw what was in, well, that was in the way, but if you saw what was in that that drawing, there's not that much. So why is it so big? Well, the last part is that if I turn on some compression, which I'll show you how to do, turn on some compression, you can really save on the file size for what's bringing in. Now, one more thing that I always stress when I'm talking about images inside of AutoCAD, people are always mistaking. That size of the image right here, that's how much is loading across my network, which is really cool. It's saving me network load time. However, this is how much RAM is actually getting used. Even if you compress it, it will decompress when you bring it into AutoCAD. So that's how much RAM is getting used. So I always like to stress that one. Your RAM is still going to get chewed up like crazy, but if you compress it, it will save on that load time. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that indexed color. You get to choose your AutoCAD palette. You get to choose, well, the first thing you want to do is pick where you want the image. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it. And I'm going to pick the spot, and I want to hit enter for the rotation angle. And I'm going to say I want the image to be about yay big, and there you go. Now it's going to give me a 10-inch by 10-inch image right here. And here's my density. Now, here's the one first trick is that if you do change the density, like I want a really nice dense image, and I type in 600, you're going to notice that my sizes have now changed, my width. So I'm going to have to change those back to 10 each. Okay. Now the last thing is that don't get too carried away, everybody, with the density, with the pixels per inch. You do like 1,000 or 2,000 pixels, you're going to have a gigabyte file of AutoCAD lines. I mean, seriously, you don't need to go that far. Okay, and then everything disappears. Why? Because I got a blank image. Now, those of you, oh, I should have put this up as a poll and we could have somebody win something. Those of you who might remember the old text mask routines, this is what the program would actually do, is put an image, a blank image, and overlay things. My AutoCAD stuff is still in there. So I'm just going to use my little draw orders. I send it to the back. Now, what I just did, by the way, in order for you to do the next step, you've got to send the image to the back. Okay, so there's another neat little tip. But here's what's so cool about Raster Design. I mean, there's 1,000 things you can do with it. But I've got all of these AutoCAD entities I just grabbed, lines, arcs, circles, and text. Check this out. Merge vector into raster image. And you can do this to anything. I've seen people do this to aerial photographs. They'll get a design, they'll put an aerial photograph, and then they'll merge their design into the aerial photograph and send that to somebody. I think that's one of the coolest things in the world.
That's a good one.
It says, do you want to delete the objects after you merge? I'm just going to say no. And, whoops, nerved, just so you can see what I just did. Yeah, there you go. AutoCAD objects on the left, image on the right. The higher the resolution, the smoother these lines are going to be, and the tighter and the tinier these lines are going to be. But you will reach a point of diminishing returns, everybody. So, like I said, keep it down to a dull roar. I've never done an image more than 800 DPI except on a dare. Okay? So, what do we need to do next? Without moving that image, by the way, let's just assume, let me undo. Okay, so what you need to do next is you need to export that image. Right, grab the image, right click, come down here, and I don't know why there's two. Yeah, this is the AutoCAD image tools. These are the Raster Design image tools, and I need to write it out. Now, here's what people say. Do you want to do a save or a save as, or do you want to do an export? What's the difference? You're going English this time. You're going to want to do an export, and the reason you want to do an export is because you're able to export the coordinate system. If you just do a save, you will not be able to do it. Now, uncompressed, you saw how big that was. It was like a 36 image. So you want to use one of these compressions. I personally like PackBits. It tightens it up the most. And I'm going to leave the, it says tiled or stripped, and you're wondering what's the difference and what, I don't care. I'm just going to leave it on the default. Here's where the important part comes in, is I want to build a GeoTIFF. Now, you could build a world file. I don't really care if people like the world files. I like embedding it into TIFF. But this is where your coordinate system comes in. This is what's so important, is that if you've assigned a coordinate system to the drawing, which you should have done by now, then this is how you get the coordinate system to come into the image. Otherwise, you're going to have to just slap that image down somewhere in the middle of the ocean and try to figure out where the heck it is.
That's not fun.
And that's not a good thing at all, let me tell you. I finish, and it just wrote out that image. So there you go. That's the first step of what you need to do. After that, you would come in here into your InfraWorks, and you're going to load up your raster image. And I'm going to go searching for it. Whoops, demo. Ta-da. Double click, double click, double click. Boy, I wish I could put a shortcut in there. InfraWorks, and then there's all my images. Okay, so which one do you want to use? I've got that compressed one. Now, pros, cons to all of this. If you do compression, you don't get an icon. Oh, darn, I don't get an icon. Who cares? If you don't use compression, it takes a lot longer, but you get the icon. Also, you will notice that I exported one that says black background, but it's showing up as white. Okay, so that's something that can often get people confused, is that when they do this, that was a black background, and they look at it, and it shows up as white or clear, and they're going, well, what's so bad about that? Well, if you bring it in, as I will here in a moment, go ahead and bring it in, you will actually see that it is a black background. Okay, so when you bring an image in, obviously most of this is already going to be filled in. You don't have to really do anything. All you got to do is just double click it, hit close and refresh. It refreshes it. It zooms in. Bob's your uncle. There you go. And there's that ugly black background. Okay, so
that won't work, Warren.
That won't work. So I've got one with a white background here, and I was just goofing around with it for the most part. But I'll go ahead and bring in this 8-bit 600 DPI compressed one. And you're going to notice that that 806 or 8 yada 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 one is nice and tight. I've got the really good resolution inside there. There's my AutoCAD drawing. As a matter of fact, I don't even need that one with the black background anymore. So I want to remove that. So first note is that by doing this, your background color, and you saw that mine was gray inside of AutoCAD now, your background color does matter because it will come through in the image, even though your image preview may not show it. And if you all want something really exciting, you can do a black or a bright green or yellow or a purple background and have it come through and make people blind. Okay, so there's that first step. You're just going to create an image. You're going to paste objects into it. There you go. And this is great because if you just want an AutoCAD drawing, you just want to paste it in there, this is the way to do it. We got a lot of people saying, I don't need to do all of that other fancy stuff. I just want to see my AutoCAD drawing. I just want to overlay it. Great, just do that. Use Raster Design. You've got it. And you're done. Okay, next step. What if I wanted to get a little bit flaky with it? I wanted to get a little bit froggy with it and do some fun stuff. Well, in order to do the next step, what you're really going to need to do is you're going to need to separate all of these. Let me get rid of the image. You're going to need to separate all of your types of objects, okay, into separate drawings if you want them all to be different colors. And that's an important thing. If you want them all to be different colors, the best way to do it, to clean it up, is to separate them into different, into each individual drawing and bring them in one at a time. So you'll notice if I come back here, I've got my buildings as a drawing. I've got the center lines of my street as a drawing. I've got the edge of pavement as a drawing, my site plan information, sports, striping. Each one of these is a separate drawing. That's the easiest way to do it. Now, you don't have to 100% do it this way. In order to avoid doing it this way, you're going to need to do some serious learning about style rule sets inside of InfraWorks. But I separated them all out into different drawings. And as an example, so here's my buildings and parking lot, etc. So how do I bring those in? Well, if you're going to be doing it this way by bringing them in as pipes or by pipe systems, you get that 3D feel. You're going to be able to lift things up. So let me bring in, let's bring in the parking lot. So here's my AutoCAD drawing. And the biggest problem with when, like I said, when you bring it in as an AutoCAD drawing, and great, I'm going to go double click my life away, is that you have to tell it what does the drawing represent, and that's why we have a little bit of an issue here. We can't just say bring in the drawing and slap it in there like I did with the image. We've got to tell the program what do each one of these represent, what do each one of these objects represent. So I'm going to be going into my demo, my double click my fingers. Okay, so I'm going to be bringing in the asphalt. Let's bring that in.
Warren, you're bleeding.
Yeah, my fingers are bleeding. Okay, so I added in the data. Now, if you're going to be bringing it in this way, it's just an AutoCAD drawing, you're going to notice that the name of it is just entity. Okay, so I'm going to double click it anyway because I'm going to give it a lot of good information. So this is my parking, or my, let's say, asphalt, A-S-P-H. So that's my asphalt. And then what type is it? So everything that comes in, and this is why you want to separate them out into each individual layer or group of objects, because everything that comes in, you can tell it what they are. You can tell it is buildings, it's furniture, or something else. But if you're, just to get the line work in here to make it look cool, you want to use pipelines. Okay, now what kind of pipelines? Now this is the rule style, and by using rule sets inside here, this is where you can actually just bring in a single AutoCAD drawing and have it try to separate out by layers. But this requires a lot of setup, and I just didn't feel like doing all that setup right now, so I'm just going to say my asphalt parking is going to be yellow. There, real easy. Geolocation. You've got to assign a coordinate system, and even if you've assigned a coordinate system inside a map or Civil 3D, it will not show up here. So you've got to assign the coordinate system that you use for the drawing. And then last but not least, in the source, I want to drape it. But I don't really want to drape it on top of the image. What I really want to do, and actually I'll do it. Let me just bring that in there. I'm going to hit close and refresh. And now my 2D image background has turned kind of cool 3D stuff. You see how it's laying on top there. Now if I go underneath, you're going to notice that the pipes are actually slicing clean through on my image. And this is bad. If you wanted to, you could actually come in here into the asphalt and under the geolocation. I could give it a little bit of a Z offset. So if you want to give it an extra little lift, I could say I want it to come up about, I don't know, about half a foot. And there, I've just lifted it up a little bit. So you do that on a layer-by-layer basis, and you just give it the pipe style. And with the pipe style, you can just say, this is the pipe that I want to use. And you can build your own pipe styles, make it look really cool. Do that to all of this stuff. If I wanted to, I could do that. I could leave the striping and make it look, just use the image if I want to. So here I'm using a combination. I'm using the image and I'm using my pipes. So you can use a combination of these neat little tricks that I'm showing you inside here. We got any good message or good questions?
Well, there's Joe has a question about, just curious, what gray color do you like in making images like this?
And that's a good question, Joe, is that what I do is you'll notice that the shade of gray that I like using is just slightly off of the shade of gray that InfraWorks uses just as a generic background. So that lets me know that this is my site. And if I come back in here, not that we've never been in here and done this before, I just use color 8 for my background.
Now, I hear that there's 50 shades of gray, Warren.
Oh, he went there. He went there, everybody.
Couldn't help it.
Mm-hmm.
It was too easy.
That was too easy. Okay. Any other questions right now?
No, well, there's one from Gary about where you find the images, the information, the topo surfaces, so forth and so on. Yeah. And I figure we'll get there in a bit. So kind of hold them.
Actually, no, that's not part of this one. That actually, Gary, give you a good answer on that, a good quick answer. Go to our website and look up my last InfraWorks webinar on building a base map, and I talk about where to get that information in that one.
Yeah,
and that's a USGS national map.
There is a lot of good information. Gary, real quick, as Warren says, USGS base maps have most of the topo information. You can get aerial information. Most cities or international areas have GIS information. Yeah. A lot of it's free. Sometimes you have to pay for it. I'm going to tell you and we will be doing this in the future, but in the InfraWorks 360, the quote-unquote cloud version, there is a tool called Model Builder, which will bring in a lot of information. I'm not going to elaborate right now. We'll show that to you later. Yeah. But there's a lot of ways to find the information you need. In this particular webinar, as Warren said, we're concentrating on how to bring in AutoCAD material to InfraWorks. Yeah, but definitely take a look at my last webinar. Okay, so method, oh, wait a minute, I missed my slides. Dagnabbit. Okay, so that was, the first one was using Raster Design. There's my little notes. Okay, importing layers as pipes. Okay, it's the easiest to do, as you just saw. All I got to do is separate my layers out into different drawings, import them, say your pipes. That was easy. I didn't have to do any creating of images and merging and any of the rest of that. It gives it a really cool 3D appearance. But the important notes about that one, you need to make sure that you remove erroneous data. You really, in order to do this,
you really do need to separate these objects out into different drawings per layer so that you can color code them appropriately. If you want to, I could have left that entire site plan, all of the different layers, all the different colors, and brought it all in, but it would have all come in as one color. Alternatively, we could spend a lot of time setting up rule sets. So if you want to be doing that a lot, then, and you don't want to separate out the layers, then you're looking at rule sets. And lastly but not leastly, coordinate systems. My AutoCAD drawing has to have been drawn in a coordinate system, and there you go.
Yep.
Julie's raising her hand. Did she put in a question?
Julie, do you have a question for us? If so, can you type it in the question box?
Yeah, we muted everybody. Okay, so lastly, my last option that I'm going to be talking about here, exporting the information as a GIS data. Oh, okay. We'll lower your hand for you. Okay, so the last one. Why would I want to use this as opposed to the other ones? Because, I mean, honestly, the nicest thing about this is it's the best way of adding attributes such as the heights of buildings, what type of roadway. You can add in names, as I'm going to show you here. But, man, it's going to be a long time-consuming process because more than just separating objects out into different layers and different drawings, you have to export each data type, like roads, parking lots, striping, or anything else, or each class, rather, and each data type is a separate file, types being closed areas or lines or points, etc. I think exporting as an SDF gives you much more flexibility because you're able to combine a lot of that into one file and then kind of goof around with it. And lastly, but not leastly, I'm going to beat y'all about the head and neck about this one, is coordinate systems. I cannot stress that one enough with the coordinate systems. Whoops. Okay, so let me get back to my drawing. We're back in that coordinate system. I've got my buildings inside here. My buildings are just nothing more than polylines, but here's some of the cool things that we can do is that if you're using the map tools, the geospatial tools, we can create object data to add attributes to our buildings. What kind of attributes? Well, as you see here, things like owner names and heights. Now, why would I put an owner name in there? Because we get tooltips that we can use. Heights. I want to actually bring in 3D objects, and I want the height of the building to be reflected in my drawing, or I'm sorry, in my InfraWorks design. So this is just a couple of examples of the things that you can add in. Exporting. After I've got all of that plugged in there, all I've got to do is I've got to export this in my export command, export this to an SDF file, or if I want to use a shape file, I can do that as well. So I would choose export to an SDF file, and then I'm going to run through the rest of the dialog boxes, and I've already got one pre-built in here. So you run through the rest of the dialog boxes, you plug in your attributes, etc., and you come into InfraWorks now, and now inside of InfraWorks, I'm going to go import that SDF file. There's my buildings. Okay, so there's my buildings, and I've got to configure my buildings. So what is it? What are they? Well, they're buildings. Duh. That was hard. All right, so for the styles, and I really like using random facades, random colors, random roof colors, etc. So I like using these random generators. Geolocation, once again, we want to make sure that we pick the appropriate coordinate system that you're using. We do, in fact, want to drape these on the surface or anything else. But because I added in the owner's name, there's a neat little trick that you can pull inside of the program. You can say, hey, I want the owner's name, and I want to plug it in right here as the name so that I can actually create a tooltip. So I'm going to create a tooltip of that owner's name.
Now this could be anything. It could be the building name. It could be, you know, the sale price of a building. I mean, you can add anything. It doesn't have to be owner's name.
It could be, yeah, and I'm just adding in one, and I keep doing that wrong. I'm just adding in one. You can add in, as you're seeing here, I can add in multiple.
Right.
I can add in the names. I can add in all kinds of things, multiple attributes, so that when you go to grab a building or hover over a building, you're given all that information. So tooltips, just like you would have in Google Earth. I shouldn't be saying that over and over.
Now, one of the reasons that this is important, I mean, for example, we've had the opportunity to work with a number of campuses, medical campuses, educational campuses, industrial or business park campuses, where people are saying, look, I have AutoCAD drawings. I have, you know, AutoCAD drawings with the building footprint on them, kind of an overview of the campus location, but I want to get it into this InfraWorks, this data-driven tool, because I want to be able to do a lot more with this in the future.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? How do I bring in, and then, you know, when I get into InfraWorks, how can I make sure that the building elevates to the proper height of the building?
Yeah.
Things like that.
And as I'm showing you, and I'm going through this pretty quickly, and we'll be talking about that at the very end here momentarily, but I'm going through this pretty quickly, but you see how easy this is. So I'm putting out the roof height in here, and rather than just typing in an average roof height, I've already added that in as an attribute. That's the other reason I like exporting this out as a shape or an SDF file. So there's the height. I'm going to hit close and refresh.
Now real quick, because we're in context here, ooh, isn't that cool? Now that's not the way that building may actually look. You may have to go in and do some other work to get it to.
No, like I said, this is
building,
random facades. I've got random facades, random roof colors, random building colors, and I'm just randomizing this. And if you want, I mean, InfraWorks does have a tool inside here for importing Revit files if you want to go that route. So
SketchUp files. Files from Google Earth that are representations of the building.
3D files. Matter of fact, I worked with somebody before where I got SketchUp files. I actually imported them in, and you could see the building materials and everything. And so you can do that if you want to. But if I just want something quick, down and dirty, and I want to go from a boring AutoCAD drawing into something where I've got some of this looks pretty cool, and I'm adding in some 3D, and I've got some shadows, well, there you go.
Warren, we've got a question from Julie, and it's pretty close to what you've just been doing. So it's, once the information is configured, is there a way to choose all of the buildings with, for example, a similar owner, and then I assume she means, you know, kind of select a group of them and then tag them all at once?
Oh, yeah. And that's a really good question, is that inside of all of these, as I'm adding this information in, and I'm doing things like the rule styles, you know, as an example, the facades or anything else. Maybe I want to do something with that rule style. I've got what's called the style chooser, and my favorite one, for those of you who've used AutoCAD Map and you've done this before, you've got your expression builder, and it has not changed whatsoever. So you could build your if-then statements all inside here and do properties. So yeah, you can certainly do that as well.
Now, and Warren, Estrella asks, I'm using Civil 3D. I don't see an option for exporting an SDF file. What other option can I use to export besides SDF/shape?
Actually, you do have that inside your Civil 3D, Estrella. It is in your, if I remember right, it's in your output ribbon is where your SDF is. I'm using AutoCAD Map. So you do have that. There's a command line version of that as well. If you look down here at my command line, you'll see it. You could type that in. It's map DWG to SDF. You could type that in as well.
Warren, I don't want to throw you off too much here, but I do want to say, kind of restate once again, because of the names I see on our attendee list, I know that many of you are using one of the infrastructure design suites, and some of you are using building design suites. InfraWorks is available in Building Design Suite Ultimate only, and it is available in Infrastructure Design Suite Premium and Ultimate. And you're hearing us talk about Raster, which is available across the board, but then you're hearing Map and so forth and so
Map
on.
and Civil
and
coordinate systems.
You kind of have to look at the products that are available to you and so forth. But regardless of whether you're using the building suite or the infrastructure suite, this workflow will work to bring in resident AutoCAD files either way.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because those of you with Building Design Suite won't have AutoCAD Map and won't have Civil 3D. And what you're going to be limited to using any of these tools is probably going to be just the raster images for the most part, or bringing in the objects as pipes. But more importantly, you're going to have to pick up and drag and move those things manually, because you won't have coordinate systems that you can assign that's just going to slap it in there. Now, the good news is that as long as you know that your drawings were created in a coordinate system, you don't need Map. You don't need Civil 3D. You plug all that in as you're doing the import right here in the geolocation.
Right.
So even for those of you who are using the Building Design Suite, you've got plain AutoCAD, and you're going, well, that's great, but where do I do coordinate systems? You can't in plain AutoCAD, but what you can do is as long as you know what coordinate system is being used, you just plug it in right here. Okay?
And there's a couple questions. I know we're coming up to the hour here, but there's a couple comments and questions. Ron comments, kind of back to Estrella's question there.
Yeah.
There is also export civil objects to SDF.
Yeah, and that's kind of a different workflow. It depends on the types of objects that you want to get out, and we will in our training sessions we will have workflows for just getting plain AutoCAD objects as an SDF versus Civil 3D. And actually, if you're going to be going back and forth between Civil 3D and InfraWorks, you don't want to use an SDF. You want to use something completely different. So we don't want to use the civil objects, but they're great for just plain AutoCAD line work.
And Jeff comments, in Civil 3D 2012,
Yeah.
you have to switch to planning and analysis workspace to see the map ribbon panels. Just to
Yeah, and that's not only just
FYI.
2012, that's 2013, 2014 as well. That's a good comment, Jeff.
And then Joe asks, is there a command in Civil 3D, IDS Premium is what he's using, to assign attribute at information, or is that only using map?
Okay, that's a really good question, Joe. Yes, no, yes is about the answer. Is there a command in Civil 3D? Yeah, it's called map. It's map commands for adding in object data, and you have map inside of Civil 3D. So as Jeff just mentioned, just switch to the planning and analysis workspace, and you've got all the tools that I just mentioned. Now, one thing I do want to stress very quickly, and this is the last little tip from me to you, that object data that I added, remember I was adding it to plain AutoCAD objects, lines, arcs, circles, text. You cannot add object data to Civil 3D objects. It will not hold on. So your pipe networks and things like that, object data will just flow off of that like water off a duck's back. So don't even try. Okay, now we're kind of wrapping up here. So because we are at the top of the hour and we got to finish up here, so some quick reminders for you. There are 3 ways. Each offers different options for you. You've got your image, you've got your pipes, and you've got your SDF. The image is a great, quick, down and dirty. I just want to see an AutoCAD drawing and plop it in here and not have to worry about any of the rest of that. Pipes gives you that extra 3D feel to objects, and then if you really want to take the extra steps, SDF or a shapefile. Regardless of which method you use, you need to keep worrying about coordinate systems because things are going to start shooting into space. And as I did here, you can use a combination. Start with an image, bring in an SDF or a shape, bring in the pipes, and just use kind of a combination of all 3. One more thing that we do want to announce coming soon, and I got to mention to an award-winning, for those of you who have not heard or not been up to our website, CAD-1 for the second time. I don't remember how many times. 2007,
2008.
Yeah, so CAD-1 has won the Autodesk Training Center of the Year for North America. We're very happy about winning that award from Autodesk and from Gilmore Global, who is our ATC vendor out of Canada, and we're really excited about all of that. We really want to thank all of you who've come to take classes over the last year because you're the reason that we got the award. I mean, it was the responses from the students, the overwhelming positive responses from the students during the evaluations, the number of students, and everything else. So we're really very, very happy about that. Okay, so coming soon, we are going to be having Autodesk InfraWorks fundamentals classes. This will be a 2-day hands-on class for InfraWorks where we're going to cover quite a bit. What we've been doing in our webinars is showing you the capabilities of the software, and yeah, giving you a couple of tips and tricks, but showing you mostly the capabilities of the cool things that you can do. But in the InfraWorks class, you're going to be learning a lot about the tools, a lot about the program, how to do the hands-on, and you're going to come away with a book with some files that you can work with, and hopefully a good working knowledge of how to use InfraWorks. I mean, maybe not an expert level. We will probably be having expert level later on, but we are going to be having these classes.
And these classes will initially at least be based on the out-of-the-box, out-of-the-suite InfraWorks, not the InfraWorks 360.
Suite-based, and I'm glad you mentioned that, is they will be suite-based. We will show off what the differences in the interface are, but, and here's the best part, and something new that we are doing with our webinars, just to reward everybody for coming to our webinars, we are offering money. If you do sign up for a future InfraWorks class, be sure to mention or let a salesperson know, or if you do it online, send us an email. Let us know that you did attend, and this is for attendees only. So those of you in the future who are listening to my voice on YouTube, you can't do this because we've got a list of attendees for this class. I don't know, can I actually show this to everybody? Or
we'll be checking it. No, I don't think it'll show up.
Okay, so anyway, we do have a list of 42 attendees. So if you're one of the 42 people attending the class and you want to, or attending this webinar and you want to come to our class, you get $100 off.
That's right.
Okay, so that's going to be pretty cool.
Now, Warren, we are going to be having at our Customer Appreciation Day on June 27th, we will be having a more extensive preview of InfraWorks. Remember that we have done, between Warren and Brian Haley, we have done 3 or 4 other InfraWorks webinars. They are available on our YouTube page. You can go to our archives page on our website to see that. We will be happy to come out to your location and show you some of this stuff if you'd like us to. I know we're going to come out on Friday and see one of you in the audience anyway. And we will also be having into the summer some test drives where you come to our office and we'll kind of do a, you can sit down and play with the computer and we'll do a kind of a touchy-feely 2-3 hour thing to let you know. Yes, well, that's in the works. Let you know how this stuff actually works. So a lot of stuff coming up.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we're really excited about that award, and here now for every bit of good news, I've got to throw out a little bit of bad news.
Oh no.
And here's a little bit more good news before I throw out the bad news. Out of the top 5 instructors for all of North America, we got 3 of the top 5 instructors, Brian Juge, Brian Haley, and Michael Calkins. Here's the bad news. For those of you who know Michael Calkins, he is leaving CAD-1. He's taking his family, and it's not just leaving CAD-1. He's packing up and leaving the state. He's taking his family. He's moving out to Chicago. Today is his last day, or I'm sorry, tomorrow. Today's Thursday, right? Okay, yeah. Tomorrow's his last day, so if any of you have worked with Michael or know him, send him an email, michael.calkins@cad-1.com or tech.support in charge of Michael, and just wish him well. We're going to miss him terribly. He's, as you all know, hopefully, for those of you who know him, he won Instructor of the Year for all of North America last year. He's just a really dynamic, great, fun person. We're going to miss him a lot, so send him an email and wish him well.
And just a real quick hint, that means we're going to have a gap in our instructor staff.
Yeah, we're going to have a gap in our instructor staff. Hint, hint, hint.
If you're interested, you can see on the screen right now how to get a hold of us.
How to get a hold of us. Come up to CAD-1.com, send us an email, chat with us a little bit.
And okay. With that, let's see.
Obviously, we've got to go through a little bit more of the award-winning services and all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, upcoming InfraWorks class, got to stress that one.
Yep.
Okay, and any more information, please email us at info@cad-1.com, and there's our office phone number. We thank you all very, very much for coming and joining us. Hopefully you picked up a couple good tips and tricks about how to use some of the tools inside of your infrastructure design suite, especially InfraWorks, and send us an email and let us know what type of webinars and what type of topics you would like to see covered in the future.
Thanks very much, folks. Talk to you soon. Bye now.